I once again welcome you all to today's class. Good morning, everyone. So, today we will be discussing backpropagation algorithm and one case study of backpropagation algorithm. Right, as mentioned earlier, the mathematics part related in backpropagation algorithm is also important to understand. So, we will be discussing that in our tomorrow's session, and I expect each and every student to attend, right, and kindly convey the same thing with your friends also. So this is one thing which I wanted to discuss before discussing gradient descent, right? But somehow it was not we did not find time to discuss it. So what are the appropriate problems for neural networks? This can become one part A question, my dear friends. So if the external exam is conducted in offline mode, right, hopefully the external exam will be conducted in offline mode. So in that case you will have part A and part B, right. In yesterday's class we have seen a sigmoid function, right, the diagram of the sigmoid function. What is the formula for sigmoid function we have seen. So that sigmoid function itself can become one part A question. And when to use neural networks, what are the appropriate problems for neural networks. So neural networks will not offer accuracy, and or you can say neural networks will not be suitable for all types of problems. So there are certain points to be noted. So what are the appropriate problems that can be solved using neural networks? Sorry, yeah, what are the appropriate problems for neural networks? So these are the 6 points which we need to keep in mind, and probably this can become one question also. So the very first point is instances are represented by many attribute value pairs. So here instances is nothing but our data set. If you remember, we have seen two different data sets. One when we were studying candidate elimination algorithm, and one more data set we have seen when we were discussing decision trees. So if you recollect those data sets, right, we had in decision tree example, we had 6 parameters, right, and one outcome variable which was like whether this fellow will go for playing tennis or not. So there were 6 parameters, 6 or 4, I think there were 4 parameters: your overcast, humidity, wind, and temperature. So based on the value of overcast, wind, temperature, and humidity, it will be decided whether a person will go and play tennis or not, right. So that was the data set. So friends, if you observe the data set, it contains what key value pairs, or you can say attribute and values for those attributes. So what are the attributes? Overcast is an attribute. For overcast, what were the possible values? Rainy, sunny, cloudy, like that there were 3 possible values. Similarly, for temperature there were 2 possible values. For wind there were 2 possible values, right. So for humidity there were 2 possible values. So here the overcast, temperature, wind, humidity, these are all attributes, right, or you can say these are all independent variables. Playing tennis or not playing tennis depends on these 4 independent variables, right. So final outcome variable playing tennis is the dependent variable. So I have one dependent variable and I have 4 attributes on which the outcome playing tennis will depend on. So the outcome variable playing tennis, its value was yes or no, if you recollect. So yes or no, I think we have the data set. I'm not sure. I'll try to show you the data set. Yeah, we have. This is the data set, my dear friends. So playing tennis was the outcome variable, right? So whether a person will go for playing tennis or not, outcome is yes or no. So this yes or no outcome depends on 4 variables called as outlook, temperature, humidity, and wind. So these 4 variables, outlook, temperature, humidity, and wind, they are the independent variables, and playing tennis depends on these independent variables. So final outcome variable playing tennis is a dependent variable. Playing tennis is a dependent variable. Remaining four are independent variables. So these independent variables are called as attributes on which my outcome depends. So, and each attribute can take multiple values. Multiple values means different values. Like outlook possible value, it can be sunny, it can be overcast, it can be rainy. So rainy, sunny, or overcast, right? So three different possible values. So outlook is the attribute, and its possible values are, see here, outlook is the attribute. Possible values are sunny, overcast, rainy. So like that, now if I come back to my slide, yeah. So this is the first point, instances. So instances is nothing but the data set or the training data, right? They are represented by many means more than one, many attribute value pairs. So if you observe our data set of decision tree example, there were 4 attributes, right? And each attribute was taking different values. That is one point. So when to apply neural networks, what type of problems can be solved using neural networks? This can be asked like this. Instead of saying appropriate problems for neural networks, you may get a question, explain when to use neural networks, for what kind of problems neural networks can be applied. Like that you may get a question. So these are the points you need to mention. So if your instances are represented by many attribute value pairs, then you can go for neural network. Second point, the target function, or you can say output function, may be discrete valued or real valued or a vector of several real attributes. So if you recollect, or if you just recollect, you have seen also just now the data set, what were the values that playing tennis can accept, yes or no? Means in that case there were only 2 possible outcomes, but target function may be discrete valued means it can take some set of values, need not be 2 only, it can be more than that. For example, I told you in the last class, my outcome variable, my outcome can be more than 3 or 4 classes, like based on your intermediate percentage, based on your CBSE percentages or CGPAs, and based on your MSET rank, I can predict whether you will get a seat in IIT, or you will get a seat in NIT, or you will get a seat in universities or autonomous institutions or affiliated colleges. So if that kind of outcome is there, then how many possible values are there in the outcome? It can be a private affiliated college 1, autonomous college 2, university 3, NIT 4, IITs 5. So there can be discrete values. Discrete values means a set of possible values, right? They can be 2, 3, 4, or 5, or more than 5 also. So when your target function is identifying, or when it is trying to generate discrete valued or a real value also. Real valued means sometimes I will try to calculate something, instead of saying that in one example I can say, based on the inputs my neural network will tell, based on the input my neural network will tell whether you will get a seat in NITs or universities or autonomous institutions or private colleges. So this is a discrete valued output. And I can also use neural networks in a case where my output will be a number. It can be a real number, not Boolean value. It can be a real number. For example, I would like to pass certain inputs to the neural network, right? Suppose I am working on a, let us say I am working on a marine application. Means I want to, let us say I am associated with ONGC kind of thing. I hope you know what is ONGC. oil and natural gas company, you know that. Suppose if we are trying to explore the possibilities of finding some oil resources in the ocean, so for that I need to take up some parameters and I want to uh, do some prediction. Means based on certain parameters, I would like to tell what are the probabilities of finding an oil in this particular place. So friends, just imagine that is the power of machine learning or the power of artificial intelligence. Suppose if there is no machine learning or artificial intelligence based solutions, what we will do is we will manually go and test and we will search for the presence of oil reserves in the oceans. Now, today, we will not say go and do a brute force method. Brute force means trial and error. You try, and you find, you don't find, like that. Instead of doing a trial and error method, now today what we can do is we already have some training data. We already know, like let us say there are some 10 places where oil reserves are already there. For example, in Vishaka Basin, we found oil, right? Reliance has find oil and gas in Vishaka Basin. Similarly, there are so many oil and gas reserves in some other parts of the world. So from that particular existing oil reserves or from that existing places, I'll get some parameters, like what kind of salinity is there in the water, right? What is the depth where I may get something like that, some parameters related to that ocean and that all what we say oil refinery related parameters, right? Of course, I am not really good at that particular part of oil refineries, but what I am saying is from existing oil reserves places, from existing oil refineries, I can get certain parameters. Now what I can do is I can train my machine learning model. Now what I will do is, suppose you want to test whether at a particular place, let us say you want to we have we want to test at Rameshwaram in Tamil Nadu whether can I find some oil reserves in the middle of the sea. So what I will do now, I will not practically go and start digging and then get into the depth of the ocean and then search for a oil reserve. No, I'll not do that. Now what I'll do, from the place where you want to search, at that place what is the salinity of the water, acidity, what alkaline water, whatever features of water are there, right? And what is the humidity level, how temperatures are changing, like that I'll get certain parameters and I'll try to test it on my machine learning model. Now my machine learning model will generate a real valued number. For example, it has generated a value. Suppose 0 means the chances of finding a oil reserves are very, very less. 1 means definitely you will find oil reserves in this place based on the parameters I am telling. So if I get a value somewhere near to zero point 0.7, zero point 0.8 like that, which is close to 1, then I can assume that okay, it is close to 1, so there may be a chance of finding oil reserves. So friends, such a very, very big and complex, costly task can be avoided, and my machine learning model will tell whether to really search in a particular place or not. Unnecessarily, I need not invest my money, I need not spend time and effort in order to find whether there is a chance of finding any oil reserves. So, like that, this is one real time example of machine learning or neural network based applications, my dear friends. So the target function can be discrete valued, target function can be real valued, or it can be a vector of several real attributes. So for discrete valued, I gave you the example of same decision tree data set. For real valued, I gave you an example of finding oil reserves in the sea, in the what we say uh, in the ocean or sea. What are the possibilities of finding an oil reserves? So it can be a real valued number, output function can generate a real valued number, or it can generate a vector of several real attributes. Vector means what? Array of numbers, right? Vector is nothing but simply collection of numbers, right? Array. So vector of several real attributes. So your target function can generate a vector also. Vector means, for example, I would like to predict. Suppose there is a what we say forecast saying that uh, there can be a cyclone somewhere. The cyclone is going to hit somewhere near Orissa, right? So in that case, I would like to predict when the cyclone hits the when the cyclone really hits the place, like when it is hitting Orissa border at the shore, then I would like to find what will be the speed of the wind, means at what rate the winds will be blowing, right? How much rainfall can be expected, right? Then what will be the humidity, like that multiple parameters I can expect and I can predict, and based on my prediction some important decisions can be taken by the government, saying that shall we relocate the people to some safer places, right? And is there any need of temporarily suspending the electricity supply, and is there any need of immediately uh, informing the disaster rescue force to be ready and ready for action in the targeted places. And I can also take some important decisions, shall I make some alternate food arrangements for up next 8 to 10 days, like that. These important decisions are made by the government based on the output given by my machine learning model. So in this example I am giving multiple values as output. One will be the rate at which the winds will be blowing, what is the expected rainfall, right? And some other parameters, right? What kind of humidity can be there, like that. So friends, so target function must be, can be discrete valued, can be real valued, can be an array of real valued attributes. So this is the case where you can use a neural network. And training examples may contain errors. So friends, there is a possibility that the training examples may contain error. So it doesn't mean that you should use neural networks only on the training data which do not have any error. So it's not like that. So training data may contain errors. There is always a possibility that there are errors in the training data, right? Can anybody guess what will happen if there is a error in training data? We have discussed this during decision trees. If the errors are there in training data, it can lead to some problem. What is that? Can anybody tell? This was asked in mid one also. Not underfitting, overfitting. If there are errors in training data, it will lead to overfitting. Overfitting, not 572 is simply typing fitting. Overfitting it is, yeah, overfitting. Right. So long training times are acceptable. So friends, basically these neural networks we have seen with only one hidden layer, but you can have multiple hidden layers also. And there are, these are all lot of complexity is there in these the output functions. When we see back propagation, the mathematical representation of errors and how weights are updated, when we see the math behind the back propagation algorithm, you will understand how complex it is. And neural networks should be used only when you are ready to accept the complexity, because these algorithms are complex and they take lot of training time. So long training times are acceptable, means if you are ready to accept the long training time, then you should go for neural network. But I would like to add one point here. Today, friends, we are using modern computers wherein instead of CPU we use GPUs, right? GPUs are very very useful and they are very fast, especially if we are dealing with lot of vectors, right? Friends, I've told you linear algebra basics. What is scalar, what is vector, what is tensor, what is matrix. So especially when you are dealing with vectors, right? When you are dealing with complex mathematical functions and mathematical equations, then you expect your CPUs or your processors to be offering you great speed and great performance. So frankly speaking, CPUs are not capable of that. So whether you are using i3, i5, i7 or any other ultra modern processor, a CPU is a CPU, because CPUs are good at scalar based computations. Scalar based computation. So if you're dealing with vector based computations, GPUs are recommended. And that's the reason in modern day computing, people are using GPU based machines instead of CPU based machines. So availability of computing power is not a problem today. Availability of computing power is not a problem today. So long training times are not a problem for me, because if I have very good computing infrastructure, then these long training times can be definitely reduced, right? So fast evaluation of the next point, fast evaluation of the learned target function may be required. So when we should use neural networks, this is another point. When we need to evaluate quickly the target function, like, because learning should happen quickly. You can't say, sir, over a period of time, after 1 year I will try to improve. It's not correct. You need to improve quickly, just like in cricket we see, right? If a new player gets an opportunity, and if he does not perform well, he will be given another one or two opportunities, means he will not be given more time, so that he can settle down in the team. He has to perform, he has to learn quickly from his mistakes, then only he can settle down in the team, right? Similarly, fast evaluation of the learned target function may be required. I want my target functions to learn quickly, and fast evaluation, they need to be evaluated and approximated, means they need to perform well. The error should be minimum, they need to converge quickly, right? That is an important parameter. For example, suppose I am using machine learning, neural networks based machine learning model. Suppose I am using neural network based machine learning model in disease prediction. If I use neural networks based model in disease prediction, so what happened is, suppose I want to predict, this is a real time example which I am sharing with you. Suppose I want to predict whether a woman may have a breast cancer or not. This is what I would like to predict, my dear friends. So initially I may have only 1000 records, so my training data is very very small, and the model which is generated is really not accurate. So friends, what will happen is, if I use this model, it may have lot of errors, and it may give me incorrect or wrong answer. So what will happen? This is not correct if the accuracy of the model is somewhere around 50% or 60%. So what I will do, I will try to improve my model. And one of the very common method I employed, one of the very common method used to improve the performance of the model, is to increase the training data and try to remove the errors, or try to refine the training data. So these are two common steps. So suppose I had 1000 records. Now, after 1 month or 2 months, somehow I gathered 1 lakh records of existing patients who are suffering with breast cancer. Then my training data has improved, so my machine learning model can learn from more data, so it will become more and more accurate, right? So that is how maybe in 1 or 2 months my model's accuracy has increased to 80%, 85, 90, 95, like that. So friends, quickly the model has to evolve. That is one important point. And the last point, ability of humans to understand the learned target function is not important. This is an interesting point, my dear friends. So if you really observe the math part which we have used, like we have seen gradient descent, and we have seen back propagation, and tomorrow we will see the math part involved in the back propagation. So if you observe, there is a lot of math, and it is making the neural network more and more complex. So what he says in the last point is ability of humans to understand the learned target function is not important. See, as long as my neural network is working fine and it is doing its job perfectly, right? I'm least bothered whether it is human readable or not, whether a common man can understand the complexity of my neural network or not. I'm least bothered as long as when I give input and if that neural network is generating proper output, I am least bothered with the complexity involved in that neural network. So friends, this is a question called as what are the appropriate problems that are involved in a new the appropriate problems where a neural network can be used. So this is an important point which I wanted to share with you. So these are the 6 points which probably you can elaborate also, right? The way I have given example for each point, you can elaborate it and you can write it in the exam. It can be expected in part A question, right? So coming back to this one, right? Coming to the case study part. One problem in artificial neural networks is overfitting. One common problem in artificial neural networks is overfitting. And we will see what are the different methods of reducing overfitting that we will see. We have a lot of time for that. Now, what are the expression capabilities of artificial neural networks? So this is similar to our previous problem. So previous topic, what are the appropriate problems where neural networks can be used, and similarly what kind of functions that a neural network can represent easily. So this is another important point. Boolean functions, we have seen with a single perceptron I can implement all Boolean functions which are linearly separable, right? So Boolean functions, every Boolean function can be represented by a network with single hidden layer. In fact, with a single perceptron itself it is possible, but non-linear functions like XOR can't be implemented, you know that very well. So if I use a single hidden layer, means two layers, I told you, like for XOR it is not linearly separable, so single perceptron is not sufficient. A single layer perceptron is not sufficient, so we will go for two layers, means one hidden layer, one input layer. So with a single hidden layer we can implement any Boolean function. How I can say confidently with a single hidden layer it is possible? Because with a single hidden layer we can implement a NAND function, and a NAND is a universal gate, universal function. If you can implement NAND with a single hidden layer, you can implement any other Boolean function with a single input, single hidden layer, right? So but it may require exponential hidden units, means in each layer you may have multiple nodes. Number of nodes in the hidden layer can be more than one, but one hidden layer is enough. So artificial neural networks can implement all Boolean functions, expressive capability of ANN, so Boolean functions. Sorry. Next, continuous functions. Every bounded continuous function can be approximated with small error by the network with one hidden layer. So what do you mean by this? What do you understand by this statement? I'll try to write it. So what do you understand by this statement? Yeah. So a continuous function. What do you mean by a continuous function? Every bounded continuous function can be approximated with arbitrarily small error by a network with one hidden layer. So can anyone tell first of all what is a continuous function? What is a continuous function first of all? What is a continuous function? So, friends, we are dealing with lot of math. That is one important point everyone should understand. Neural networks deals with lot of math. So you should try to recollect your basics of math also. What is a continuous function? Nobody can answer or what? Nobody is responding. Fine, no issue. I'll tell you what is a continuous function. So friends, first of all, what is a function? Function is something like this, right? F of x is equal to x square. This is one function, right? I can have any number of functions like this. F of x is equal to a minus b whole square. This is a function. F of x is equal to a minus b whole square. So what is a function? You know very well. Now, what is a continuous function? Continuous function means whenever we make some changes in the input, the amount of change that can be seen in the output is very, very, very small, right? It means that, friends, something like this. So what is a continuous function means? For example, this is my graph. So this is an example of a continuous function. So suppose at this point of, so this is, let us say, this horizontal line is x-axis, this is x-axis, and this is y-axis. So friends, this is a point, let us say this is x value some 1, this is 1. So when x and y are 1 and 1, the output is somewhere here. So when x and y are changing, suppose somewhere here, this point if you observe, so when I make some small change in x and y, there is a very small change in the output. Means continuous function means whenever I introduce very small change in the input, in the output also I'll be seeing very, very small change only. Means you will get these kind of graphs or these kind of lines you can see. So friends, if small change introduced in the input is causing a huge change in the output, then it is not a continuous function, right? So that is what is the basic meaning of a continuous functions. So if for continuous functions also, artificial neural networks, see, every bounded continuous function can be approximated, means can be represented with a small error, with a single with one hidden layer, and any function can be approximated accurately, means even this error can be removed. I can represent it more accurately with two hidden layers. So this is what is the expressive power of artificial neural networks. So two hidden layers, people have not stopped at two hidden layers, people have increased the number of layers. When you go with 3 layers, 4 layers, then the complexity of the model will increase, and you will start using the word, instead of neural network you call it as deep neural network. Deep neural network means a neural network with many hidden layers, right? So friends, this is what is the expression capability. Now coming to, this is overfitting is a very common problem in artificial neural networks, right? How do you deal with overfitting, that we will see in our future topics. Now this is one case study, neural networks for face recognition. So see here, the picture, the photo of a person, the image of a person is represented in the form of a matrix 30 by 32 inputs. So here the image will be converted into a matrix, right, of size 30 by 32, right, 30 by 32. So I have some data here in the form of matrix like this. So 30 values in the row, 32 columns, 30 by 32 matrix I have, means an image will be, you know very well, images are divided into pixels, right? So each image is collection of pixels. So entire image is represented in the form of a matrix of 30 by 32 inputs. Now what we are doing is, we will apply back propagation algorithm. So the input to this into the neural network is 30 by 32 matrix is the input, right? So these are the typical input images. 90% accurate learning, head pose and recognizing 1 out of 20 faces. So 90% accuracy has been seen in face recognition when a backpropagation algorithm is applied in a neural network with hidden layers. So these are the learned hidden unit weights, right? Typical input images. You can this is the textbook slide only. So if you want to see the input images, this is the location. You can simply type this URL in Google. You will get all these input images. If you want to really work on these functions, if you want to really work on backpropagation algorithm, you can take that input images. So alternate error functions. This is an important point, friends. Please observe here. We will wind up in another couple of minutes. Don't worry. Yeah. So this is the error function which we know very well. It is nothing but our mean square error, friends. Mean square error. Mean square error. What is the formula for mean square error? Expected output minus actual output whole square, and this should be done on all inputs. So if I have 10 inputs, then it should be I is equal to 1 to 10 expected output minus actual output whole square and 1 by 2. This is the formula for mean square error. So whatever is highlighted here, it is a formula for mean square error, which we know very, very well, right? So we know this very well. Now, what is new or what is something new is, what is to be noticed here is this one. What is new component is, this is the new component, right? So read this heading here. We are saying penalize the large weights. So what do you mean by penalize the large weights? What do you mean? What do you mean by penalizing? Penalize the large weights. So this component is added to penalize the large weights, and the next line is calculating the derivatives. You know why we calculate derivatives. Derivatives are calculated to find the gradients, and based on those gradients we will get the delta part, and that delta part will be subtracted to get the new weights. We know this very well. Now what do you mean by penalizing the large weights? What do you mean by this? To penalize, we are adding this extra component. So what do you mean by penalizing? Can you guess? Can you guess? Can anybody guess what is penalizing the large weight? What do you mean by this? Any guesses, please? Just try. Nothing wrong in trying. Correcting. Penalizing. Penalizing the large weights. It is written on this slide. No? Penalizing the large weights. To penalize the large weights, one more component is added to the cost function. This is our cost function, right? Error function. So why penalizing is needed, or what do you mean by penalizing? That is what I am asking. The value. Please observe this. I am trying to draw something. So let us assume there are three inputs are there on the green one. So this is one input, this is one input, and this is another input. So for three inputs, I am connecting them to the hidden layer. Pink color nodes represents the hidden layer. So friends, let us assume this is x1. Penalize means decrease, reducing the large error, decreasing. Fine. So let us assume there are only two inputs x1, x2. So this is the way bias part x0. Now this is the hidden layer, and from hidden layer I am getting my outputs, right? Hidden layer is connected to my output layer, right? So at every place we will have weights, my dear. So there will be a weight here, there will be a weight here, there will be a weight here, and whatever output is generated from this node, right? Let me call this one as hidden layer. So this is h1. So first node in the hidden layer, h2, output of second hidden layer, and this is h3. So again we will do multiplication, same sigma of x1 w1, whatever we would do in our basic layer. So here I have products like x1 into w1, x2 into w2, like that. Similarly here also I will have some products of output value with the respective weights. So friends, here I'll get some output, right? So here I'll get some output. Now this output may have some error, definitely, because randomly I have substituted weights. I really don't know what is the correct answer. I can't create a perfect neural network with randomly initialized weights. So first I'll get error, and from there I'll try to minimize the error. Now penalizing large weights means not to avoid overfitting B5. Penalizing means to decrease something. Yeah, but what to decrease, that we need to understand. So friends, what we will observe is, suppose I got error here. Okay, I got error. I got error. Right. Now, friends, I'll give you a very simple example. Just in another 2 minutes, we will wind up. I'll give you a very simple example. Suppose in one semester there were 6 subjects. In these 6 subjects were handled by only 2 people. These 6 subjects were handled by only 2 people. One person has taken 3 subjects, another person has taken 3 subjects. Now what happened is, exams were conducted, results were released, results were declared, and it has been noticed that the pass percentage of your class was very less. It was somewhere around 50%, right? Somewhere around 50%. And the next semester again, okay, fine, this semester is done, your pass percentage was very less, fine. Next semester, now again I want to allot these 2 faculty to your class. What should I do? Shall I allot them or not? We will relate this to our concept. I repeat the example. There were 2 faculties. Each faculty handled three subjects in current semester, and you got your overall class pass percentage was very less. It was 50% only. So next semester, what should I do? Shall I continue both faculty, or shall I change these 2 faculties? Please let me know immediately. We will wind up. We will relate it to our concept, and we will wind up. Please respond. Your pass percentage was very less, so shall I remove both faculties, or shall I continue with the both faculties? What should I do? Change the faculties, remove the faculties. Add faculty to each subject. No, add faculty to each subject, that was not there in the option. I told you, shall I continue these two or not? I am talking about only these two, right? If really required, I'll add another faculty. It's a different story. The point is, what should I do with these two faculty? Let us not talk about third person now. What should I do with these two faculties? Because your pass percentage was very poor, shall I remove both of them? That was the question. So shall I remove or shall I continue? Train the faculty. Sorry, boss, if when we will train the faculty, when we will train the students, right? If I spend time in training my faculty, your batch will go out, right, without any training to students. In one movie, B5 in one movie, there is a dialogue, no, sir, if మీరు జాబ్ ఇస్తే నేర్చుకుంటాను, if you give training, మీరు ట్రైనింగ్ ఇస్తే నేర్చుకుంటాను సార్ అంటాడు ఒక సినిమాలో, right? Then the boss says training will be given to person who already knows everything. So you can't expect faculty to be trained again and again. Tell them for changing the methodology, tell to change the way of teaching. No, all these things are not acceptable because you are not thinking. What I told, now I'll tell you the answer. What I told, two faculties, remove. 572 is very strict, remove them. All of your answers are not acceptable. The reason is, I'll tell you the question again. I told you two faculties handled six subjects, right? Each faculty took three subjects, and your pass percentage, overall pass percentage was 50, which is very less. 50% passing is very less. So what should I do with the faculty? This is what I